Welcome back. As both Obama and Clinton head into the home stretch of the Pennsylvania race, many think the contest is going to decide their political fates. This primary, as we mentioned, has 158 delegates up for grabs, the highest number of any state still to hold a primary. For Clinton to keep her candidacy alive, the Pennsylvania primary is a must-win. She also needs a victory to convince the superdelegates. She is the candidate most likely to win in the big states the Democrats need to reach the White House. Certainly it doesn't look easy for Hillary Clinton in the remaining 8 contests after Pennsylvania, although Barack Obama has lost some of his momentum in recent weeks and was forced on the defensive by Hillary Clinton. But for the Democratic Party, the main concern is about the unity of the party ahead of the presidential vote itself. When a nomination battle is this hard fought, will it all take its toll on November the 4th? Still joined by our guests in Washington, D.C., Matt Stoller, in Doha, Scott Bates, and also in Washington, D.C., Amr Hamzawi. Let me go to Matt Stoller, first of all, in Washington, D.C. Where do you think it goes from here for the Democrats? Party unity, are they in trouble?
No, it's a good thing to fight. If you look at Pennsylvania, just operationally, both Obama and Clinton are leading McCain because of all of the spending in the state. And you have a 10% registration advantage for Democrats over Republicans because of the primary. There's this big misconception that democracy is a bad thing and that democracy costs resources. And I just think that's kind of silly. The party is doing really well. Both candidates are energizing large groups of people. That energy is going to translate into the fall. We're fine.
But doesn't it put the Democrats on the back foot, given that we've known it's John McCain for quite some time now, and we won't know whether it's Clinton or Obama for some time now as well? Does that not put them on the back foot?
Well, I mean, certainly a lot of the labor groups are not spending the resources against McCain. They're trying to play kingmaker within the Democratic Party. And there's a bunch of annoying stuff that's going on. But I mean, the fall election is going to be determined by Iraq and the economy. And there's no, I mean, if there's an upturn in the economy, which seems unlikely, then McCain has a shot. But if there isn't, I mean, the Republicans are in trouble. So, I mean, you can look at this and follow all the twists and turns, but I think the macro issues are significantly more important. And the whole sort of, people don't like fighting, but, well, I kind of like it, but most people don't really like, and most party elders don't like to have their allegiances tugged either way. But, you know, are they really looking out for their personal, you know, their personal preferences, or are they actually, you know, can they disassociate that from the party itself? You know, I don't know. I mean, I tend to think that open debate is a good thing. It strengthens democratic institutions like the Democratic Party.
Scott Bates, in Doha, I mentioned a little earlier the superdelegates. They're going to play a very key role. Is there an indication, perhaps you can explain for our viewers, of which way they might be swinging already, or who's got the inside running with the superdelegates?
Yeah, superdelegates are people that are elected officials, governors, members of Congress, members of state central committees of the Democratic Party, so party elders, if you will, almost all of whom are actually accountable to voters and Democratic primary voters, so there is a link with Democratic preference there. The idea of these super delegates is that they will have some kind of say in the nomination process. It won't just be the delegates chosen in the primaries. And, you know, they have never been a deciding factor until this election, actually. They were only created about 25 years ago.
So we should be more, sorry to interrupt you, we should be more worried about what they think rather than perhaps what Pennsylvania thinks and North Carolina and Indiana to follow.
Now, those delegates are political professionals, and they are going to stick their finger up and see which way the wind is blowing. So if it looks like Barack Obama has trouble getting white working class votes, I'll be very plain with you, if that looks like it's a problem, then that might cause some of the superdelegates to have pause at his nomination. If it looks like everything's continuing as it is and Barack Obama still piles up some solid victories, then I think they're going to want to close this down quickly. And for instance, if Hillary, watch on Tuesday night, if she barely wins in Pennsylvania, you'll see a lot of these superdelegates go to Barack Obama, and I think there'll be a movement to close down the race fairly quickly because, and by that I mean there are hundreds of them still undecided, and they can tip the race one way or the other. So Hillary does need to win big to survive on Tuesday night.
Amr Hamzawi there in Washington, D.C. I saw you nodding when Scott Bates was talking. What do you think about as he was saying, the way the wind is blowing with the superdelegates?
I agree. I mean, the wind is blowing means basically two issues. One, as he rightly mentioned, whether Barack Obama will be able to perform better in large states, which is basically about white working class segments. Second issue is the popular vote. I mean, up until now, Obama is leading in the popular vote, and the popular vote is going to be a crucial factor as well. Superdelegates cannot ignore it because, as he rightly mentioned, they are professional politicians. They are accountable to different segments of the American electorate, and they cannot simply ignore the popular vote. One final thought on the issue of closing the race before the convention. Even imagining that Senator Clinton will not win, will not be able to win up to 10%, imagining that the margin will be 5 to 7%, I guess it will not be called off. There has been over the last weeks a serious debate within the Democratic base and within the Democratic Party elite over calling off the race, and apparently many have come out in the last week saying no, it should go on. And I agree with the first speaker on it's really good for the party. It is energizing the base. It is revitalizing the party structures. There is a big relative advantage when compared to the Republicans. The registration in Pennsylvania is part of a wider national trend, so it's not as bad.
Okay, so there is one thing which we do know for sure at this stage. I've mentioned it already, and that is John McCain. We know he is going to be the Republican nominee. I wonder, Matt Stoller in Washington, D.C., what you think about his chances against whichever Democrat nominee it ends up being. Not so much between the players, but who will appeal more to the American people? You mentioned the economy and Iraq being the big things. Who's going to appeal more?
So you mean which candidate will appeal more? The Democrat or the Republican?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sort of depends. John McCain is a crazy old man. He's kind of nuts. And he is horribly corrupt. He's just sort of a terrible person, and he's just like, he's just like Bush. His policies he believes in are end this war in Iraq, tax cuts for the wealthy. Everything about him. He's just a Republican. Now he does have a chance because he's lying about pretty much everything he believes, and the press, NBC, ABC, the New York Times, are allowing him to lie and don't sort of care. And that's a significant factor. I mean, the press in this country is pretty much useless. And so, the question is but I mean, the public at large, though, hates Republicans, hates Iraq, hates the direction of the economy, thinks that the wealthy are too powerful. So the question is, it's really an elites versus the public fight right now. And if the economy continues to go down, and if Iraq gets worse, I don't see how McCain pulls this off, and also I don't see how Democrats don't sort of have huge majorities coming into the House and the Senate. Of course, if Bernanke gets his way and is able to create a little economic bump before the election, then McCain does have a shot.
Okay, very quick final thought from Scott Bates in Doha. Matt Stoller leaving us in no uncertainty what he thinks of John McCain, a crazy old man. Do you think a crazy old man, as he says, could become president of the United States?
Well, stranger things have happened, but I would suggest to you that there's another narrative out there, which is John McCain was a war hero, that when he was imprisoned in Vietnam, he refused to be released until his comrades were too. And a lot of the American people know this narrative. In fact, polling right now has the race a dead heat.
Okay, Scott Bates, I'm sorry we have run out of time, but thank you very much for joining us. Also to Matt Stoller and Amr Hamzawi there in Washington, D.C. And thank you so much for joining us, our viewer here on Inside Story. Goodbye for now.